Want a large SUV that can walk the walk as well as talking the talk? What about one you probably aren't familiar with, Sangyong's Rexton? If you're secure enough in yourself not to care too much about badge equity and want a large, capable, well-equipped 7-seat 4x4 for sensible money, it makes a lot of sense.
Under the bonnet, this improved model's 178 PS, 2.2-litre EXDI 220 Euro 6 diesel power plant puts out a useful 400 Nm of torque, enough to facilitate a hefty 3-ton towing capacity. That's up to a ton more than many notable rivals can manage. The Rexton's great off-road too, thanks to its solid ladder-framed chassis and heavy-duty low-range four-wheel drive setup that splits the torque equally between front and rear axles to provide all-round traction and ensure optimum grip, even in the most challenging conditions. That kind of setup is never going to make a car like this a class leader when it comes to ride and handling on tarmac terrain, but Ssang has certainly done its best to improve things in recent times. Avoid the entry-level model and you get the more supple multi-link rear suspension and the option of the smooth Mercedes-sourced 7-speed e-tronic automatic gearbox that we're trying here. With this transmission fitted, this Rexton can now return 38.1 miles per gallon on the combined cycle and 194 grams per kilometre of CO2. That's a useful improvement on the figures the old 2-litre model could manage and makes this car cheaper to run than rivals of similar capability like Mitsubishi's Shogun, Toyota's Land Cruiser and Land Rover's Discovery. Yong says it's designed this Rexton around the principle of practical elegance. Well, have they achieved that? Well, if you fit into the target demographic, you might well think so. Time to take a seat behind the wheel. Now, a proper off-roader should have a properly commanding driving position, and this one does. This is certainly old-school SUV motoring, but then in some ways that is rather refreshing. And in the second row, well, for the kind of money Sangyong's asking, you might expect the kind of slightly cramped family packaging you'd find in, say, a Qashqai-sized family crossover model. Instead, what you get is a car that, thanks to a wheelbase some 30 millimetres longer than a Toyota Land Cruiser, costing nearly twice as much, offers decent space for 2 or 3 folk. The seats don't slide, but they do recline. That long wheelbase means there's room for third-row seating too. And boot space? This 5-seat model gives you the kind of capacity that all Rexton owners will be more likely to be using on a regular basis, about 475 litres. Fold the second seating row and a very reasonable 1,338 litres of space is opened up. And that's about 35% more room than you get with a rival Toyota Land Cruiser. Let's get down to the facts here. There is no other properly capable large SUV in the same price bracket as this one. If you want something really comparable with up to 7 seats that can tow as much or go as far off the beaten track, then you need to pay around 30% more for a Mitsubishi Shogun, or potentially you need twice as much for a Land Rover Discovery or a Toyota Land Cruiser. Old school virtues then from Korea's oldest and most experienced brand. Just the way loyal Sangyong buyers like it.